Hi guys, my name is Nicolas. I'm a developer in the blockchain team of Injective Labs, and welcome to a new talk for this global virtual hackathon. Today's lecture, and it's called Introduction to Market Making on Injective. So, as the title suggests, we're going to be talking about concepts like, okay, so what's market making and why do I care about this? And the last part of the title suggests that we will be showing an example on Injective of market making. So today's topic, there are some questions that I can read your mind. You have these questions, like for example, so what's market making about? Why is it necessary in today's markets? Can I be a market maker? So what are the requirements to be a market maker? Is it profitable? So how profitable it is? How can I measure this? What are the risks of market making? There's no such thing as a free lunch here. So we will be talking about the possible pitfalls when market making. And finally, most important of it all, we will go into a real life example and have an account set up for the purpose of this demo. And we will go from the complete scratch, like from the initial stages, the initial installation setup and configuration of our trading bot. And for this purpose, I'm going to be using a piece of software called Hummingbot, which is an open source tool, and we will be connecting using the Injective Labs Hummingbot connector. So, well, without further ado, let's move forward into this. So let's talk first about some history. So there are examples that are previous to United States, although we will center ourselves into the exchange for United States, but we can recall from the 1700s, Netherlands being very important and maybe the first major example of it, where big economies would flourish in the markets and participants could trade stocks, and these stocks were a financial instrument to represent a portion of a company. So for United States, this happened a bit later, of course, and in the 1800s we can see this is a picture of the stock exchange in the initial stages when it was not in what we now call Wall Street, but it was located in Broad Street. This is depicting the late 1800s. And initially companies would hire market makers, and each company would have one market maker, and these market makers were people that were standing in the street, and they would quote prices to buy and sell the stock, right? So they would stay generally the whole trading day, screaming, I sell 10 stocks of this General Electric for this price, and if you want to buy, we can set up an agreement here in the street, and also for buying. And this is typically the mania that we can link to what a trading floor is, right? So prices would move during the day, and they would adjust these prices, and basically they would have a price for buying that's going to be cheaper than the price to sell, and this difference in prices, it would be the profit for the market maker. To summary in two sentences. So eventually market makers would be tired of being on the street, and it would rain, it would snow, it would be uncomfortable, and they would want to have a better place where to work. So they joined together and founded a club. This club, where they would trade, had their activities inside of a building, and instead of just shouting the prices, they would publish these prices in boards. Initially, those boards would be, I guess, blackboard with chalks, and later on, this evolved. And finally, their evolution led to what we know as the New York Stock Exchange in the United States, the most important stock exchange, except for the technological stocks, but that came later. And eventually they moved to the famous building in Wall Street. So you can see a picture in the middle that shows the trading floor and how it looked like. So market makers would still be screaming for trading, and they would be signaling with typically their hands, or maybe some tools to make some signal codes, and they would transmit that information with the brokers. So brokers would be the other piece of this puzzle, where they connect to clients that were the final user or the final customer in this market, buying and selling stocks. And of course, this was you can see that they are very well suited, but still this was total mania. This eventually evolved, and you would see the traditional blue jackets that we use mentally to link with market makers in the trading floor. And you would see that these traders would have some signs in their jackets to have a brand or a company they work for market making. In this case, for example, you have Citadel, Jump Capital, and other market makers. We're talking about the traditional finance stock exchanges. So this picture it dates from the 90s, and the New York Stock Exchange picture on the middle is from the 70s, but I'd say that it was a lot of decades without any big evolution. So you can have a picture of the 60s or the 50s, and it will look probably mostly the same until in the 1990s. There were the addition of very big screens and more technology. So this is all related to traditional finance, as we call it, like stocks and financial instruments related to these stocks, and also bonds, and also futures and other derivative instruments. But this has nothing to do with crypto. So for crypto, this changed dramatically. And let's talk about this guy. Not sure if you know this guy. This guy is called Michael Saylor. He's the CEO, or so far I think he still is the CEO of MicroStrategy. This company has invested I don't know how many millions of dollars, but they bought 130,000 bitcoins. And why am I talking about this gentleman? Well, the point I want to make is that crypto market is completely different from stocks. Market making, it's not exclusive to certain companies for which market makers would be hired to run this trading, but it would be in some sense broadly available for the public, and this guy, Michael Saylor, should perform mostly exactly the same steps as any random dude with a computer in a very nice bar outdoors. And both of them should connect their wallet and trade in an exchange or in a decentralized exchange, centralized or decentralized exchange, with something called direct market access. So what's this concept of direct market access? So let's go back to the previous examples. So in all of these examples, technology would evolve, and initially being on the street, and then joining in a building, and then getting technology to execute trades electronically. But in all these scenarios, there were designated market makers working for certain companies and with a permit or a legal documentation that allowed them to perform these trades. When we are working with crypto exchanges, anyone can trade directly, buying and selling the assets. We are not going any longer through the broker and market maker flow, but we are actually connecting directly to the exchange using their APIs, which most of the times are free and open, and they allow anyone to place orders in the exchange or the book. So what does Injective have to do here? Well, Injective, it's a decentralized exchange, and it provides an API, and this API has documentation that you can check in that URL that I am showing, and you'll see that there are different categories for this documentation on how to trade for spot, how to trade for derivatives, how to trade for options, and also multiple methods to check for your balance, check for staking, perform staking, and eventually you could systematize your whole trading using the API. So why are we talking about the API and the possibility to connect to this API? Well, because when we will show you an example of market making in Injective, we will be under the hood using this API. So let's change the subject here, and we will talk about so what is a market maker's goal. So market maker is hired or exists in the market to provide liquidity, which seems like a very abstract and vague concept, but you can think of liquidity as making prices be close in the bid and in the ask, in the sell and in the buy side, and generating activity on the venues in the form of orders that would allow other people to trade, and also in the form of trades that would generate transaction volume for the exchange. So these two categories are what we actually call the maker and the taker, but let's talk about that in the next slides. So let's move forward. And there are other, like, let's say, sub goals for a market maker, which is to hedge against risks, right? So you will be buying and selling, and we know that you buy cheap and you sell expensive price, but we don't know about risks so far, or we haven't talked about risks. Well, there are some risks here, and I'm sure you can think of some. So let's say that there's a stock, or in this case it's going to be a crypto asset, a token, and this token we are market making on it. So if you want to market make, you can have a stock of an inventory of stable coins, and with those stable coins you will be able to offer buy orders, because you will be submitting orders to the order book to buy that token with your stable coins. But in order to sell, you need an inventory of that token also pre-existent to your orders. So you will be handling an inventory both of the token and also some other quote asset, we can call it, most of the times stable coins. So those tokens may suffer price drops, price increases, and if price increases, everybody's happy. We have a token which is more expensive now, and we have more money potentially. But what happens if that token drops in price? Well, then you will be more poor. And that's one of the risks that we call generally the market risk. So it's losing capital by means of prices dropping. So how will you earn profits? So this point I've talked before. So one of the ways of profiting from markets is to earn from the spread, the difference in price between the buys and the sells. But there's also other ways of profiting, and this is, for example, rewards. So for market makers to be incentivized to trade in the market, not only are there opportunities to earn money with the spread, but sometimes there's also the exchanges that favor these opportunities and incentivize the market makers by offering what's called rebates of fees or directly rewards. So fee rebates, as you can think of, the definition of a rebate is to offer a negative fee. So I pay you money if you trade by posting maker orders. And rewards, well, this is a more broad concept that could be related to, I can analyze your activity, and based on your activity we can calculate how good were you as a market maker, and based on that it's kind of like a price for your quality as a market maker. So we talked before about maker and taker orders. So let's go a little bit deeper into those concepts. When you or any participant adds a new order, posts a new order in the order book, which we are seeing in the left side of the screen, these new orders are going to be posted and accumulated under these prices, and if those orders are executed, you would be providing liquidity to the market by offering a potential order that eventually got executed and transformed into a trade. So you would be making the market. So you would get the maker fee. For trades that are originated by orders being consumed, the client will pay taker fees. So you can see the difference here, because if you are buying or selling to an order that has been already been posted in the order book, you would be removing that order from the order book once you trade against it. So you would be taking that order, or you would be taking that liquidity from the exchange. So that's why it's called the taker fee. You can guess that most of the times, for the exchange, from the exchange perspective, the maker order is going to be most beneficial for the exchange than the taker order. So fees, if exchange want to incentivize the makers, are going to be less expensive than the taker fees, or even negative, like the exchange pays the maker an amount. And the profit, it's going to be this simple equation. So profit, it's equal to spread minus fees times volume. So spread, if I buy and if I sell, there's going to be a difference in price. So if I buy one stock and sell one stock with difference in price of this amount that we call spread, well, then we earn the equivalent to that spread. Let's say that I buy, well, in this case, this asset for $13 or 13 tethers and 88 cents, and then I sell it for 13 and 89, then I will be making 1 cent in that difference. And if I multiply that by the volume, it's going to be the spread times the volume. But then we have to consider the effect of the fees. So if I buy and if I sell, if in those two orders I was consuming liquidity from the market, then I would be paying a certain fee. That probably that fee would overturn the reward that comes from the spread. So the actual reward, the net reward for the trader, is going to be the spread minus the fees. So the most desirable configuration here would be to make for the buy and also make for the sell, to get the least spreads or the smaller spreads, or even the reward spreads, the rebates. So that would be kind of like a second source of profit for the trader. So remember that we talked about the market risk of price dropping. So this is a concept that we don't have time now to cover it, but if you know what an AMM is, the market risk is also called or linked with the concept of impermanent loss. You can dig deeper into that over the internet. You can look for it in YouTube. There are very good videos explaining that. And in order books exchanges, like for example in Injective, it's going to be the inventory risk. So what is like a way to summarize the inventory risk? Well, let's suppose that an asset trends up to the upward side, or it trends down in price. So this will lead you, so if you're posting buy and sell orders, and that in this example, let's suppose that the price drops. So the price is in a trend and it's falling, and you will be submitting a buy and a sell, but only the buy will be executed, because the sell, it's not going to catch up by the price that it's going down. So then in the next step, you're going to be saying, okay, I executed a buy, let's post again buy and sell orders, updating my price as price moves. And now we are buying again, but not selling, because again the price dropped and crossed our order. And this will be happening again and again and again and again as price drops, as asset goes down. So we would eventually, using our stable coins or our quote asset, to buy more of that token, and we would be consuming the inventory of stable coins just to get an inventory which will tend to be 100% of the base asset or the token and 0% of the quote asset. So this is undesirable, of course, because we will end with an inventory that is full of the token that dropped in price. So market risk means the risk of the trader accumulating more of the asset that goes down in price. So this is vice versa when you go from an asset that is at a certain price and then goes in a trend upwards, because you will start selling it and you will accumulate more of the quote asset of the stable coins. So now that we've talked about all these concepts, we will move forward into a demo, and for that I'm going to be sharing screen with you of my terminal and sharing screen with you of my bot and how do I set it up, and this is the second part of this talk. Congratulations! If you're watching me, that's because you've reached the second part. You've gone through the first part and you've reached the second part, where we're going to share a demo of market making on Injective. So for this part, I am going to be using a guide that I've developed for this purpose. This is going to be shared in a link in the description or the notes of this video. I have this guide in my second monitor. I can share it with you. So this is the guide I'm going to be using. And we're going to go step by step from scratch, from full scratch, on how to install the needed software and running the bot, and also configuring for market making. So the software is called Hummingbot, and for it we've made a special branch, a special repo that we have in our public repository. This is under github.com/Injective Labs, and the repo is called Hummingbot Hackathon. So in here you will have this link to copy and get the repo, right? So, well, of course you need to have developer tools such as GitHub, and while going through this video I'm going to be mentioning other tools that you also need. It is important to know that in this example I'm using my personal computer, which is a MacBook, but in the description, in the guide, there's going to be steps for either Windows or any other Unix-based environment such as Linux, all its flavors. So let's start. So first I'm going to be creating a folder. In this case, I'll call it demo, and in here I'm going to be cloning the repo. If you want to get these lines and these comments, they're going to be in the guide, so you don't need to stop this video and copy it manually, because it's going to be available in the manual. Cloning it shouldn't take too long. And while it's cloning, this is Python-based software, which comes with its own requirements in terms of libraries. But the good thing is that there's a prepared package or list of packages for creating the environment, that it's going to be easier just to run one script to install all the package. So next step, and this I'm going to just mention it but won't run it because it's already installed. But if you don't have tools for building code, you will need to run this command: xcode select install. This is just for Mac favor. This is for downloading the runtimes and the build tools for compiling code. Okay, won't run it because I already have it installed. Next step, and again, this is not something that I'm going to be installing, but I'm going to show you that you need to have a distribution of Anaconda installed. In this case, well, being a Mac computer, I'm going to go to Mac OS and download this installer. You can also use the command line installation, but yeah, it shouldn't be too hard to get it installed. This is part of the guide, so you shouldn't be worried about the details, which are not going to be missing in the guide. Okay, so once you have that installed, you should now, in the repo that we have just cloned, make sure that you are standing in the development branch. That's easy to do. You can check out development and you should be standing in development. Okay. Now that we have the branch downloaded and we have the runtimes and the tools that we need to run this, of course, Anaconda is, something to clarify, it's that Anaconda, it's not only a bundle that contains libraries, but it also contains the Python runtime. So it combines both the Python executables with the libraries that you will need to install to run this tool. So now that we are good with this, let's install the environment. For this, I have to say that I have it already installed, but let me run real quick this command so I simulate that I am starting from scratch. Okay, so now I don't have it installed and I will install it with you. So the command here is /install, because there's a script, as I was saying, that provides the runtime. Okay, this might take some time. Okay, it's done. So you should check if there is any message here in case something went wrong, but usually it doesn't go wrong since this is very basic packages that don't have any weird dependencies. So here we see that it says installed, successfully installed. So now we can run this command: conda activate Hummingbot. So this is the environment under we will run the bot. So now that we have this installed, we can run this script. Let me clear. I'm going to enlarge a little bit the screen so you can read. Compile. We'll run some compilation because this is not purely Python, but it's actually a combination both of pure Python and Cython. So Cython is a superset of Python that it's written in a way that makes it available for a compiler to transform that code into C++ code. So C++ code being compiled will generate binaries, which execution time and performance is way better than Python. So some of the tools included in Hummingbot are written in Python, but this is completely seamless for us. We won't be dealing with that, so it's okay, and we just compile it, and that's going to be ready for us to run. So there has been a lot of messages here. A good way to check if everything went well is just to run it again and see if it's not trying to recompile something. So if we run again compile, it should go through the list and say, okay, nothing to be compiled because everything was compiled successfully. So we can now run Hummingbot. So the way to run Hummingbot is /bin/hummingbot.py. So the first time it's going to take a little bit longer because it's initializing stuff, but this is pretty quick to run. Cool. You can see that this is Bing Chat style, and it looks like a old console, but that's the kind of like style and UI of this. But don't be afraid of this. This is not going to be as hard to use as an old console in the Unix time, in the DOS times. So yeah, okay. This is a piece of advice, and this is pretty important. So to get this working, we will need to insert our credentials for the exchange, which won't be uploaded anywhere, but we need to have them stored encrypted in the local disk. So to do that, we need a password to encrypt the files. So this password is going to protect the credentials locally of the bot. Okay, we'll just write Weller. You write a better password than me. Okay. No config migrations, so we should be good to start, and we can now at least execute a vanilla version of Hummingbot that will be able to connect to any centralized exchange. But since we are going to work with Injective, which is a decentralized exchange, we need to do an extra effort here, which is to enable another component called the gateway. As you can see here, it says gateway offline. So we need to make an instance of the gateway to run locally in order to connect to Injective. I'm going to show you, it's not a big deal. So first thing is to generate certifications. Gateway generate certifications. Enter a passphrase. Okay, I'm going to use the same passphrase I use for Hummingbot. There you go. And take note of this path that we are seeing here. This path is going to be later on be useful for connecting the gateway. So I'm gonna guess you wrote this down somewhere. And let's exit Hummingbot. So we will take care of the gateway and then restart Hummingbot, and everything will be ready to run. So next step, once we have generated these certificates, is to go to this folder, gateway, and we will create a Docker component to run the gateway. In order to do this, you need to have Docker installed. I'm gonna flash again the guide. So I did include instructions or a link to get the Docker component installed. It's just another software that is going to be used to run a containerized version of this component called the gateway. So yeah, I'm going to assume that you have it installed. In any case, you can find very good instructions in their website, or if you Google install Docker, it shouldn't be too hard. So you have Docker installed, and now next step is going to be to run this line that I'm not going to type because I'm afraid I may have a typo, and this is going to take some minutes. Okay, so we have created the image, and now let's create the container. The container is going to be a script that when run, it's going to prompt some questions, very straightforward. So let's do it. The path to the script is this, which I just have set some permissions to run it, and let's run it. So enter gateway version you want to use. Here you have to just leave latest. Remember, we picked the tag latest when we build the image. Enter the name for your instance. Let's use gateway. Enter the folder, the name of the folder where files will be stored for the gateway. Let's use gateway files, which is the default. And enter the passphrase. So this passphrase is the one we use when we generated the certificates in Hummingbot. So in this case, it's going to be the letter I just entered. And yeah, so here we see a preview of things that are going to be created. We are going to have this folder gateway files with these 3 folders where things are going to be stored, and this is the gateway port that we're going to use, and the Swagger documentation port. So all good. Here there's a password prompt. This is the admin password because we need to create folders. So in order to create the folders, we need the admin password. So local admin. Okay. Enter the folder where you have the certificates stored. Remember that I told you to keep a note of this path, which I have copied here. So this is the path. There you go. All good. If you go to Docker, you should be able to see in the UI 2 things. One of them is going to be the image that you have created. This image has been built 3 minutes ago, and this contains the gateway. And then the other is going to be the container itself, that it's going to be running using that image. And well, you can see that the ports are going to be exposed for the connection, and this is going to be used by Hummingbot to connect to the gateway. So all good, seems to be running. It's not halted, so we can just put this away. And now we are going to be able to run Hummingbot. So let's run Hummingbot. And okay, the command is the same we used before, but I need to be standing in the right folder. There you go. Enter password. There you go. Aha, so now gateway is online. So this is the gateway that is connecting and talking to Hummingbot, and now we will be able to connect to the Injective account. So of course you need to have an account, which when I say account, I mean a wallet connected to Injective. And in this case, we are going to be using the mainnet, but you can use the testnet. It's going to be an option for you. So you can either choose mainnet or testnet if you want to run with fictitious funds, right? Paper trade, we call it. So the command here is going to be gateway connect. Okay, no connections. Let's create a new one, and the name of the exchange, of course, is going to be Injective. Gateway connect Injective. Which chain? Well, in this case, the chain and the exchange are just one. It's Injective. In the case of other like Polygon or other chains, there might be many exchanges for this chain. So this is going to be Injective. I'm going to be connecting to the mainnet for this example. And yeah, I agree that this is the node URL. So enter your private key. So you need to copy your private key. This is the credentials that I'm going to be using to authenticate. So yeah, I have this prepared in my second monitor. Okay, there you go. Enter your sub account. So in this case, it's going to be 0, the default sub account, which now it's merged with the bank sub account. So yeah, it's going to be 0. Okay, yeah, this seems to have worked. So how can I check this? Well, it's going to be easy, because if I check for the balance, it should show up the funds I have in the wallet. And there you go. I have these funds in the wallet, and with these funds, I'm going to be running a strategy, a really simple strategy, to show you how does this work. So let's do create. What kind of strategy? Well, okay, for this example, we're going to be using pure market making, which is just the most basic strategy. Enter your spot connector. Now we have instantiated the connection, so it should be there to be auto-completed. Enter the token trading pair you would like to trade. So you can see that in my balance, I already have prepared Atom and USDT. So we're going to be trading in the pair Atom USDT. You can choose whichever pair you want, of course, provided that you have funds to. Atom USDT. How far away from the main price do you want to place? Okay, this is a spread. Let's do, for this example, I want to trade, so I'm going to be picking a very tight spread. So let's pick 0.02 and 0.02 for the ask. I want to replace orders every 15 seconds. Okay, how much Atom per trade? So I'm going to creating orders of I don't remember the price. I want to. So this is $13 today. Let's do 0.9 Atom per order. Okay. So if I type config, there are many other options that come with this strategy out of the box, but I really don't care about that. Just want to see if everything looks well. So let's field order delay. I'm going to be let's do 10 seconds. Yeah, so never mind, this is just details of this particular strategy. This is just for demo purposes. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's start this strategy. The way to start a strategy is to type start, and it should connect now to the exchange and prompt me for some confirmation. Okay, I want to continue. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to type status live, so as to see in real time what are the orders that have been created. And now, if everything works well, I should be able to connect to the exchange. So this is Helix, and we'll connect to our wallet. Hope you don't see any password here. And okay, all good. So we should be trading Atom USDT, and I don't know why it's not showing here. Atom. Oh, there you go. Okay, so this is a real-time demo. Things can go wrong, but here you can see this is the pair of orders I'm creating. So now we can go back to the concepts that have been said before. So in this case, I'm offering a bid order and an ask order, and there's a spread. So this is the 0.02 that I entered for the bid and for the ask. So add up together and you sum 0.04 percentage of spread between the orders, and we are making market. So I'm posting these orders, which in the UI would be the same as clicking limit and clicking post only. This is exactly the same, but this is being run by the bot. So the bot is going to be every 20 seconds, I don't remember the time, every 20 seconds I think, or 15 seconds, new orders, updating the prices, and it's going to be generating this continuous pair of orders offering liquidity, which is posted in the market. And as you can see, these orders are spawning and then disappearing and updating. And well, if we are lucky in this time while I am talking, some of these orders are going to be executed, so I can show you them in the final example. So let's go back to the terminal. Oh yeah, we have one trade. You see, trades 1. So now we have generated some profit. And of course, this is decimal of cents, but yeah, this is the way a typical algorithm for market making runs and generate trades. And this is the way you can run your own market making in Injective.